Any correctional officer who has worked with inmates for any length of time knows one thing for sure. They're all different. But they do share certain things in common. They live in a penal institution, and their lives are controlled by the rules and the policies of that institution. And of course, their lives are controlled by you, the correctional officer. How does living in a jail or prison affect a person's life? Experience has shown that most inmates, regardless of their background or the offenses they've committed, have common feelings and concerns, common problems. The purpose of this program is to look at their lives and their feelings through their eyes. Why? Because supervision of inmates can be difficult, and hopefully, if you're a new officer, understanding their attitudes and concerns will help you be more effective in your job. If you're an experienced officer, you probably know more than what we can say in this program. But it's a good bet you'll also probably agree with what's said here, because you know these inmate feelings and attitudes are real. Inmates believe them, and because they are real, every officer has to deal with them every day. What do we know about what it's like to be an inmate? Let's start at the beginning. What's it like to enter a jail or a prison for the first time?
Lang, number.
I don't know if I remember.
Well, you better start learning it. What's your number?
All I know is start with 2, 3, something.
You better learn it.
Most inmates can vividly recall that first day. As soon as they arrive, they begin to realize that now they're cut off from everyone and everything outside these walls, and there is absolutely nothing to feel good about.
Outer!
The strongest feeling is fear. Not anything specific, a vague fear of the unknown, similar to the feeling that any of us has going into a new situation. But this is jail, or this is prison. No one knows what to expect. Sometimes imaginations run wild. Most new inmates ask themselves the same questions. Will I be safe in here? Will I be raped or killed? How am I supposed to act? Is this place full of crazy people? Will I go crazy in here? Is this really happening to me? Because no one knows quite how to act, many men and women choose to be very quiet, to stand back and watch everything, and that's understandable. But others are just plain angry.
How long is that, sir? I'll tell you what, it's for you to find out. A couple of weeks or a month?
For all new inmates, this is a time of nervousness and uncertainty, and the tension can often lead to a wide variety of behavior, everything from total aggression to total withdrawal.
Stripping down there.
And the fear is often accompanied by shock. Just as he gives up his name to become a number, being asked to undress in front of strangers means he's not just giving up his clothes, he's giving up his identity.
Straight out to that corner and make a right turn.
Even though most inmates know they will have to go through all this, when it happens, it's almost always confusing.
Straight on down.
What are they going to do with me? That's his question. Of course, inmates do learn to adapt to an institution, because they have to. But an experienced officer knows some adapt more quickly than others. However, all have some common problems adjusting. For example, there's very little privacy in prison, and things that we all take for granted no longer exist for an inmate. Living space is restricted, so is the ability to move around freely or when they want to. For most of the day, inmates are in constant contact with each other. Obviously, many inmates, even those with years in the military, have trouble adapting to this lack of privacy. There's no release from it. There's no weekend pass. In here, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Inmates learn quickly to value whatever privacy they can get, and to respect the other inmate's living space as well. Finding privacy is a problem, but being alone can cause problems too. Because in their cells, alone, inmates have no choice but to come face to face with their lives, their thoughts, their fears, and the realization that they are totally alone in a world full of strangers. Everyone and everything that means anything is on the outside. Like all of us, inmates want and need personal privacy, and yet like all of us, they also have a need to belong, to be alone sometimes, but not lonely. Gradually, they find that their friends on the street give them up. People that they once trusted are gone. Who can I trust in here? Where do I belong? For some, unfortunately, the answer is cliques or gangs, because they seem to offer this sense of belonging. And even though gangs will control their lives, many inmates accept this control in order to be someone. Other inmates get involved in a job, school, or other activities in the institution, but the purpose is always the same: to find who I am, to fit in somewhere. If an inmate has a family, it's usually extremely important to him. Visits or letters from home often become the inmate's lifeline, his primary way to keep his sense of who he is alive. If this lifeline is cut, if letters stop coming, if there are no visitors, an inmate can feel that his whole life is shattered. They treasure the family because they know if the family stops caring, maybe there is no one else who would care. It's worth remembering that for many inmates, a family also means responsibility, a chance to make decisions or have some influence. He can feel good about having some involvement in their lives. And for most inmates, family responsibility is the only responsibility that they have. Because in their day-to-day routine, inmates don't make many decisions or have many choices. They're told when to eat, when to sleep, and of course, when to work. And while some inmates are comfortable being told what to do, many feel that having little or no real responsibility turns them into children. They know someone else feeds them, clothes them, and protects them. In fact, it's common for inmates who are serving a long sentence to begin to feel that they may no longer be capable of adjusting to an outside life. So when they are given some sense of responsibility, it can change their lives by reassuring them that they are capable individuals. Things that we all take for granted can be important, like being given a responsible job and being recognized for doing a good job, being asked to make some decisions, being asked for opinions, being seen as an adult human being that has something to contribute.
Steady the torch with your left hand.
Obviously, some people can handle more responsibility than others, and some want more responsibility. But we know that most inmates, in their own way, want to feel that what they're doing is not false work, but a valuable contribution. And finally, like everyone, inmates would like to feel secure and protected. If an inmate feels unsafe, he'll remain unsettled and distrustful of everyone. Many spend a lot of time looking over their shoulders because they know there is danger in prison. Because inmates are forced to associate with all kinds of people and are not sure who to trust, many constantly avoid people or situations that can set them up or cause them harm. As a result, you find many are always on guard. Every inmate looks around and says, "I could die in here. Will I?" Experience has shown that though some inmates constantly cause trouble, most inmates have no desire to create problems. They have other desires. They desire to be seen as adults in a place that can treat them like children. They desire to feel protected from people that are dangerous in a place where some are dangerous. They desire to serve their sentences in their own way, in a place where much is done only one way. They desire to be themselves as much as possible in a place where it is not possible. They desire to be recognized when they succeed in a place that reminds them daily they once failed. They desire some personal freedom in a place that takes their freedom away. They desire to keep alive their relations with their families in a place that separates them from their families. But the strongest desire of all, of course, is to someday get out. Inmates must serve their time, and you are there to make sure they do. As any experienced officer knows, the correctional officer who has the least problems in his dealings with inmates also just happens to be the officer who is able to understand what it's like to be an inmate.